Right guys, welcome back to the channel, and I'm going to show you how to make some Gloomspite Gits scenery in the form of the mushrooms that you may have seen in the backdrops of some of the pictures released on the Warhammer community page. So the easiest way to make it is actually with this. This is Das Air Drying Clay. I picked this up for £4 from the range in the United Kingdom. You'll probably pick it up from most hobby stores. I've already gotten a lump out here. It is best to work with a little bit of water. As you can see, it's starting to dry out ever so slightly. But what we're going to do is make a couple of mushroom shapes and a couple of basically sausages. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do like a flat cap type mushroom. So just roll it into a ball. I do need a little bit of water on it. You can see there it's not doing great. There we go, that's better. And then we're just going to start and flatten it out so it's in a much more kind of flat cap shape. It will start and split. Das is very finicky. You can mix it with a little bit of PVA if you want, but you can also mix a little bit of water in. I'm probably just going to wait until I've nearly got the shape and then just add a bit of water to it. And I'm just pushing my thumb up onto the inside there just so that it's bent over slightly. Just going around it and trying to spread it out a little bit further to make it as wide as possible. Now this does need to be quite big. That's about probably nearly close to a 50mm size base, the size of it. I mean, obviously you could measure it out if you wanted to. But then I'm just going to get a little bit of water on my finger and just start smoothing it over to get rid of all of the lines and everything. It doesn't smooth quite as easy as green stuff does, so just keep persevering with it, keep kneading it, and eventually it'll be pretty smooth. Okay, so there we go, that's pretty smooth now. I'm going to put that to one side. I'm going to put it face down just so that I don't put anything down on top of it by accident. And next we're going to make a little bit of a sausage shape. Again, just make the shape of it, put a little bit of water on just to keep it smooth. I'll probably put a tiny bit too much water on here. You just got to work it in a bit further if you put a little bit too much water on by accident. Doesn't want to be too thick. I would say probably thinner than your index finger. Doesn't want to be too long either. I would say maybe it's an inch to an inch and a half long max. So I'm probably going to rip a little bit off the end here. Just keep turning and make it a bit thinner and a bit longer as you go. I want to rip that bit off the end there because I think that's quite long enough. And then one end, it doesn't really matter how bad it is because you'll see what we're going to do in a few moments. And just smooth it out. And the idea is that when we fasten it all together, you'll have something like that. So we'll put them to one side and then we'll start working on the base. So this is the base for the terrain piece. I'm going to be doing 3 of these at once. But I've just drawn sort of a kidney bean shape and cut it out on some, I think it's 5mm MDF, which I picked up from my hardware store. It was an offcut that I picked up for about £2. So I've just cut it out with a jigsaw. And the next stage is to kind of shave the edges so that the base itself is basically, you don't have a stark edge, and you just want to use a Stanley knife or a craft knife and just cut away from you and just follow the edge round like that, just so that it's not a 90-degree edge. Okay, so the next stage is to use some cork bark. I picked a giant piece of this up for about £12 on eBay, and I broke some off that's about the right size to go on this piece of terrain. And we're going to hot glue it down, so get your glue gun nice and hot. Don't be frightened to lather it on. I'm just about at the end of my stick here, so I'm going to have to add another one in quickly. Don't be afraid to add a little bit more in as well, just to make sure it stays in place, because all of this is going to be blended in when we start adding all the detail and everything onto it as well. Right, so the next stage is to add some stones to the base. These are just stones I picked up from outside off the beach. I've already added a couple here just for the ease of recording, but I'm using super glue to put these down. It's a lot quicker to use. You could use hot glue gun, but if you use PVA or any other glue, it may not dry as quick or as well. I'm just looking around now. I think I've actually got most of what I need on. You can place some like that and then just pour some glue over the top for it to run into place and hold it in. This is just super glue from Wilkinson's own. It's £1 for a full bottle. It's pretty decent for making terrain and stuff with. So there we go. We'll let that dry before we come back in with some sand and PVA glue. Okay, so once that's dry, what we're now going to do, before I add the sand, I'm actually going to paint some PVA glue around the edge here. I'm actually going to add some Cork chippings. I picked this up at the garden centre. It was about £3 for a ginormous bag. So I'm literally just going to add a little bit of that to the edges, just to kind of, so it's not just basically flat sand. So I'm just going to tap the glue in here, and I am using a knackered brush, so it doesn't matter if I get a little bit of wet super glue still on. You can probably see it clogging up there already, which is fine. There we go. So then we'll just sprinkle some of cork bark on there. And go all the way around. So once we've added the cork, we're then going to add some more glue all the way around. And this time it's to add the sharp sand. So don't be frightened to pick any of the cork bits up as you go around with the glue. Make sure you really work the glue in there. Get some glue under there as well. And it doesn't matter if it goes on the sides a bit either. And then what we're going to do is use some sharp sand, which I picked up from a builder's merchant. You can get a bag of about 5 kilos or something for about £1.50. So it's not very expensive at all. And all I've done is I've put it in a little tub and I've let it dry out next to the radiator, which you can see here. So the thing about building sharp sand is it's very gritty. There's a lot of different grades of sand in it. It's not like play sand or building sand where it's all one consistency or grade. So just to save mess, I am going to do it over the top of another tub and just sprinkle the sand on like that. And then of course when you're done, you can just pour the sand from the bottom back into the other tub. Right, so here we go guys. I've done 3 of these so far and I've just been outside and sprayed it black. I'm not going to show you how to spray it black. I'm not going to teach you Benny how to spray eggs. But now what I'm going to do is I've got some burnt umber Vallejo air and I'm basically going to spray a lot of the groundwork bits and kind of blend it up into the bark just to give it a nice coverage, and then we'll come in with a lighter brown and give it some highlights as well. So it's a little hard to see, but you can tell there's bits and pieces of brown there. I have added just a few quick blasts over the top of here, but next up I'm going to highlight that up with some leather brown. I'm just going to pick out the higher bits. So next up we're going to put some greys in, and I'm going to use Citadel the fang, and I'm going to cover quite a lot of this and the stones at the bottom as well. It's all about just building up layers as you go. So then next we're going to go over the tops of these and kind of do a smaller layer over the rocks as well. And I'm going to use Stonewall Grey by Vallejo. I'm just going to add a little bit, just catching it lightly, just enough to give it a bit of a highlight. And it's okay if you get some on the browns as well, it will just give it a bit of a natural highlight. We're going to be adding some dry brush and some powders and stuff later anyway, so don't worry if it goes out of bounds a little. Okay, so next step is to use some Wolfe Grier, and I'm just going to again just do a little bit just to highlight the areas, the raised areas, and just basically keep adding layers to it and building it up. You'll notice I have got a tiny bit of grey along the edges here. It just adds, basically with rocks and ground, the more layers and shades and highlights that you can add, the better it's going to look. Doing this very lightly just to pick up the raised areas and the edges. Okay, so next up we're going to add a little bit more highlight to it, but we're going to do it with dry brushing. So I'm going to use Silvanus Bark for the first batch, and what I'm going to do is just go over all of the browns with a little bit of a dry brush and go, you know, add some in to the cracks and crevices and stuff on the bark itself. So for people who don't know how to dry brush, I'm literally just scrubbing off most of the paint, and there we go. And then it's just a case of highlighting it up like that, and you can see there, especially along the edge, it is picking it up. And it just adds again more layers. And just working on it all, building up those multiple layers, all those different shades, and it just adds everything to it. And then obviously when I come in here, I want to go for the area where I've sprayed a little bit of the brown. Don't be frightened to mix it up either. It's good to get some browns on here, because we're going to add more shades and colours later as well. Don't be afraid to really work the colours in. So you can see here I've got quite a lot of brown, some gaps some brown in the crevices and stuff there. Next I'm going to use Screaming Skull to dry brush, and I haven't cleaned my brush. And what I'm going to do is when I work the paint in to try and clean most of it off, I'm going to actually work it into the brown here as well, just so that it's a nice light shade of brown. And then just start dry brushing again. And you see that you don't want to dry brush with white. A lot of people make the mistake of dry brushing greys with white. Rocks aren't white, and what I find is doing this is probably the best way. So you're just going to work it all back in. And then what we'll do is we'll clean the brush and then come in with the cream once we've got most of the paint off. Okay, so next dry brush, I'm going to be using Pallid Witch Flesh. Pallid Witch Flesh is an off-white. There's a tiny kind of bit of reddy cream in there. So we're just going to do the same thing. We're just going to dry brush, and I'm actually going to wipe quite a lot of this off because I really want it to be subtle with the highlights. So we'll just work the paint off the brush first by going along the bottoms, and then just starting to pick up on the edges. I am doing this very lightly just to pick up the most raised sections, and you see here in particular it's catching like the ribs in the bark. very light there just to pick those up. And then once most of it's off your brush, very, very lightly start to work on the rocks, just to give them a bit of a highlight as well. Okay, so next up we're going to start and add a couple of little bits of plants, and these I picked up. This one I picked up from B&M Bargains, £3 for a whole giant plant, and I've just pulled one of the stems off. This one is from a sprue of fish tank plants that I picked up off Amazon. So I'm just basically going to use the hot glue gun and add these in place. So you just want to glob of super glue there, and we'll do 2 here at once just to, for the ease of keeping things being done quick on camera. And what I'm going to do is I'll put probably like 2 more around this side here. Okay, so now that the mushrooms have dried for about 48 hours, I flipped them over after 24 hours because I had this one like that originally, and then when I turned it over, the inside was still soft, and that's because it's air drying. Same with these, I had to roll them over and let the opposite side dry. But what we're going to do is we're going to spray these with Baneblade Brown. Mainly the bottoms because the tops are obviously going to get highlighted. But you want to get the undersides of each of these and probably at least half of one of the stems to represent the underneath bit as well. So, just get them sprayed up. Okay guys, so when all of that is done, we're then going to do a top-down highlight with bone white, and then we'll do a top-down on top of that with that mixed with a little bit of white. So we're just going to go on the top of the mushrooms and just build up some fine layers on the top here. So you'll see here what I've done with the stems is one side is Baneblade Brown, the next side is Bone White. I've now added some white into the airbrush. I haven't emptied the Bone White out, and I'm going to spray just the centres of the mushrooms and do some top down to highlight it up. Okay guys, so here's 2 parts of the mushroom, and basically we're going to glue it together so that the darker side is underneath. Looks like that, so that we can, well, there you go. But what I'm going to use to glue it back together is I'm actually going to use the hot glue gun, and then we're going to put the mushroom straight in place on our terrain piece. Okay, so here we go with the glue gun. I'm just going to put a smattering of hot glue in the bottom. There we go. And then let that dry in there, and then we're going to glue it onto the terrain. So now that the stems are dry, I'm going to start and add the mushrooms on. I'm going to have to add this on with a big glob of hot glue, so don't worry if you get a little bit of extra glue kind of outside or it spills out a little bit. We're going to cover it over in a few minutes once it's all dry, but that's where I'm going to glue the first one. So just make sure it has a nice good hold, and then it will set shortly. So the next one I'm going to put down here. So again, nice big lump of glue. Just make sure you get your bits of string gone. And then the next one is going to go there. There we go. And then the last one I'm going to put here. So again, nice big lump of glue. There we go, and we'll just give that a few minutes to dry. Okay guys, so the mushrooms are glued on, and all I've done is I've kind of like lumped a load of hot glue in here to press it on. You can see down here as well, there's some hot glue there. It doesn't look nice at all, even under there, but not to worry. The final stage that we're going to do is add a little bit of basin material, and what I'm actually going to use is this. This is from Luke's APS. I'm forgetting the name of this one. I think this is Arid Badlands or something like that. But all of my grots are based with this, so I am going to add a little bit of this around the basin of this, and I'm going to paint the glue over the top of the hot glue gun so that I can try and hide where it is as well. So, with an old knackered brush, I'm using Luke's APS glue as well. Check out my review for them. Check out geekgaming.co.uk if you want some of this base material and glue. It is fantastic. And Lucy managed to base about 80 of my goblins in about 30 minutes, which was fantastic. And it looks great as well. So I am going to put just a little bit up there, just to, you know, sprinkle it here and there, add some bits of detail, just to break it up a little bit. Under there as well. There we go. So then I'm just going to hold it over the top of my tub. The reason I put it in this is just so that it's easier to work with. And just add it on slowly and then just give it a bit of a tap off. And just work around it. Okay, and there we have it guys. The 3 pieces of terrain all done. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. You'll be sure to see these in a battle report coming very, very soon. More Gloomspite Gits coming very soon. Please check out the small mushroom tutorial if you're interested in knowing how to do the mushrooms, like what's on their bases. And of course, check out the rest of the channel for battle reports, tutorials. Give us a follow on Twitch for live battle reports and hobby sessions. Check out the darkartisan.co.uk and follow us and support us via Patreon for early access to battle reports. But thanks for watching guys, and we'll see you again soon.